This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, where each and every week we take a deep dive into the good, the bad, and the awesome of wrestling video games. I'm the man they call Johnny Clash.
And I am George Feis, and today is the day, the first annual Game Marks podcast Hall of Games induction ceremony.
And please subscribe and leave a 5-star review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. And don't forget, you can get this episode early and ad-free at patreon.com/GameMarksPod, along with the show notes, Discord access, live recordings like this one. This is the last week for the live recordings. They go back in the bank until next Game Brie. Giveaways and a whole lot more. But this is just a momentous occasion. This is the first of many GMP Hall of Games ceremonies.
Man, oh man, I am very, very excited. We are live right now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. This is gonna be something different for us here. We talked about doing this on our own. There was some talks about us maybe having a wing in another podcast Hall of Fame for some video games. But you and I talked about it. The Patreon, the Discord, they petitioned for it pretty hard this year, and we decided to kick it off. We put this whole thing together. We're very excited about it. And like John said, the first of many. This is the first year. We're going to keep this going every year. It's going to be awesome. Now, before we get into it, I would like to talk about two things. One, we got to do a little recap from last week. We got to talk about one of the most confusing controlling games we've ever played. I don't think that we've ever quite had a game where we've played through a majority of it not having a good understanding of how it was supposed to work, and then right at the end got it, and then kind of changed my opinion of the game, but not enough to save it. So let's talk about Kinnikuman Dirty Challenger. Where are you sitting on it a week out?
I just think it was such a good looking game, and I had so much hope for it, and it just fell flat. It looked like, it was bright, it was vibrant. It looked like those Sega classics, the SNES, like the Jurassic Parks, the Power Rangers with the bright colors. Jumping from like an NES to
Power Rangers.
Yeah, from NES to SNES. It was such a big difference. And you were like, whoa, this game had that, like, whoa, this is so cool. Like the dimension to the artwork. And then the bell rang.
Yeah, it was left a little bit to be desired. I think that may be the best way to describe it. All of the pieces were there. It just didn't quite fall together as perfectly as we may have hoped, or that we kind of have come to expect with the Kinnikuman games. Because even games that came before this, on the SNES and even some of the handheld titles, they all played pretty well. So this was a rare miss for the Kinnikuman series.
I think we put it right where it belongs, right in the graveyard, and that is that, and it's going to stay there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about something that we announced last week. Very excited about it. Your boys over at the Game Marks podcast are now partnering with our friend over at Mad Cat Beard Care, and you can go and get yourself our very exclusive scent. It's called Play It Forever. We essentially were
because our wives just want to play with it forever after.
Oh boy, that is
the beard.
Wow,
no?
John, that was another level I was not expecting for that to go to. But
the beard,
scent, blood orange, vanilla, black clove. You've got beard oil, beard balm. The label. We talked about that. John and I don't really trust a lot of people to do a lot of things with our logo. It's we spend a lot of time working on it. We're very proud of it. But team over at Mad Cat. They absolutely killed this label. If you're familiar with their product, they love to put like a little cat spin on their labels and stuff, because a portion of every product sold goes to help homeless cats find forever homes and get them the medical care that they need. So not only are you getting an awesome beard care product, but you also can feel like you're doing some good and helping some cats in need. That's coming soon. We will have a full-on release with, all the bells and whistles when it officially launches, but it should be launching within the next week or so. So keep an eye out on that. We'll be posting on our social media at Game Marks Pod. If you're interested, that's where you can find, and that's where you can find the post and get all the information. But John, what
George,
else you got? What's next? Anything else you want to talk about?
I think we should tell everyone why we're here. We're here for St. Jude. This is
Yes.
kind of the commencement of the Gamebury ceremony in a way. This is the last of the live episode portions. Next week, we're going to go back to our normal schedule of released on Mondays. No more live episodes except the Patreon. We're going to let you into the Riverside recordings and you can watch there. It's not going to be on YouTube anymore, but there are going to still be more ways to donate. This is not the end of Gamebury as a whole. I have a schedule here. I'll read it off. We have raffles to give out, guys.
Hell yes.
I'm going to go get one and show you in just a second because it's insane.
Wild.
But the week of the 1st to the 3rd, I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay. Now, he's not underselling this. This blew our minds collectively when we saw this. Not underselling at all.
Okay. So the first raffle, and again, 100% of the donations go to St. Jude. This is starting on January 3rd. It will end on January 8th. And it is for this. Ric Flair, signed, boot, PSA certified. Look at this thing.
Jesus.
And it's going to be maybe like $20 an entry, maybe 10. So just what a prize you can get for almost nothing.
A pink signed Ric Flair boot.
Look who's in the chat right now. Jeff Montalvo.
Look at that. Golf clap.
From the 10th to the 15th, we'll be giving away an autographed Raw book, which has, that was next to me. It's not. It's back in the tote. It has like 200 signatures. It's crazy. Wrestlers from the past, current wrestlers. You're going to want this thing. It's insane. From the 17th to the 22nd, a Kurt Angle signed chalk line jersey.
Wow.
And then from the 24th to the 29th will be an NWA Always Ready signed turnbuckle pad from everyone on the show.
Man.
Now, these will be mostly done in the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Patreon Facebook group, but we will also be posting it on social media for everyone to participate. And
yes.
Yeah, so everything will be posted everywhere because it's all about fairness.
Yep.
And raising as much money for St. Jude. But then we're deciding on a date for Game Marks Mania, which is our marathon stream where we raise even more money. It's like this. We just play games the whole time.
Yep.
We have the perks on the screen. We get more donations. And that will be most likely the first weekend in February or the second. We'll figure it out.
And that's a lot different than if you've been keeping track or here for the live streams for the episodes. It's like that, but you get a little bit more control where you can actually donate and pick the game that we play. You can change how John and I play the games. And you could be like, you can't hit the L button.
Stop playing Fortnite for 7 hours and switch to WrestleMania 21 or something.
But we could be playing Lego Fortnite and a donation comes in. It just says, destroy your village, and we would have to do it.
We're not going to do that.
It would really suck, but we would have to do it for St. Jude's for the kids. First, I want to say this first and foremost. If we had people who gave us prizes that they wanted us to raffle off, and they chose to not be named. But if you're out there and you're listening, I want to go ahead and on behalf of me and John, thank you very much for your generosity.
So much.
Knowing that it's going Yeah, and knowing that it's going to a good cause to help us raise money for St. Jude's, it's amazing. And then also want to thank all the sponsors for this year for Gamebury: Best Batch Promotions, Major Bendy, Smack Talk Showdown, Run In Podcast, and What the World Watched Podcast. Again, we've thanked you every week, and it's not going to change. We greatly appreciate everyone who's been here for the live streams each and every week, and for our sponsors and those who have donated prizes. It means a lot. And again, it's all going towards a great cause, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
All right, but let's go over what the perks are today. I'm going to read them off here real quick. $2 is a live shout out on the podcast. $5 is a rock, paper, scissors. $10, we have to compliment each other. It's only $10 because it's a real struggle to actually do it out loud. $25, we will sing everything for 1 minute. $40, a high-pitched voice for a minute. $50 will be a mini podcast on the donor's choice topic. And $60 will have a hot take. $75, a wrestling haiku. Also, the topic will be chosen. $100, we got killed with this one last week. Take a shot. And $1,000. If it ever happens, we will just start the episode over from scratch.
Right from the beginning, man.
We'll have to do it all over again. And we got some nice surprises planned for the Hall of Games going up. It's going to be pretty crazy.
Oh, boy. Well, we've set the stage. We've gone over all of the ins and outs of Gamebury. A little follow-up, little plug for the beard oil and the beard balm. Are you ready?
Oh, and if you donate throughout this episode, you'll be entered to win a GMP prize pack.
Yes, that is the prize for this week's episode. So if you are here right now and all of those who have donated between last week and this week, that is what you are being entered to win. Boy. But here we go, John. The first ever, the inaugural GMP Hall of Games. Are you ready to get into it?
I am so ready. The nostalgia goggles are bronzed and we're ready to go.
All right, here we go. All right, so really quick, before we get into it, the first thing we got to talk about is the rules, because there's one rule. We set one rule for how this works. For the choices that were available for John and I to choose from, and for our Mega Marks in our Patreon to choose from, the rule was this. It had to be a game that was a double play it forever on the podcast. So that means that John and I both enjoyed the game. We gave it the old GMP stamp of approval. And that's how we listed the criteria. Those are the games that you had to pick from. So without further ado, let's get into it, because today is a momentous occasion as we induct a true gaming classic into the Game Marks Podcast Hall of Games. An iconic arcade classic from 1991, a game that not only has entertained players around the world, but more importantly, left its mark on the gaming industry.
That's right. And with its innovative gameplay and iconic roster, it has become a timeless masterpiece shaping the landscape of wrestling video games since its inception. Without further ado, let us introduce the first inductee into the Hall of Games. And who better to induct this Patreon pick than the reigning king of Gamebury, Sean Cummings, better known to the Game Marks as Tecker.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, it is your two-time Gamebury winner, Tecker. And I'm here for this momentous occasion as we induct a true gaming classic into the Game Marks Podcast Hall of Games. This arcade classic, developed by Technos Japan in 1991, has not only entertained players globally, but has left an indelible mark on the gaming industry. With its innovative gameplay, iconic roster, it has become a timeless masterpiece shaping the landscapes of sports entertainment, wrestling, video gaming. It is my honor to welcome to the GMP Hall of Games, WWF WrestleFest.
Hell yes.
Do you see that? Do you see that? Do you see the hair standing up right there?
The goosebumps.
First ever inductee.
Man, Oh,
Thank you.
man.
Thank you, Patreon. Thank you, Tecker.
WWF
Crazy.
WrestleFest. I mean, a game that we kind of waited a little bit longer than I expected to play on the podcast. But boy, when we played it, it was kind of obvious that it was immediately going out, going into. Uh-oh.
Oh, and we got 100 from Jeff Montalvo. He said drinks on him.
Oh, Jeff.
Right?
Jeff, thank you very much, sir.
And the Elder Spork with a $10. He said, compliment your suits, gentlemen.
Let me tell you something. I'm a big fan of a light gray suit. I think that they're very underrated and not enough people wear them. So the fact that you are wearing such a snazzy light gray suit, I got to give you props, man.
It's a nice blazer from the Kohl's bargain bin. But George, look at your color coordination. The black on black with the gray and black hat. We look like polar opposites, but in a good way. We look great tonight. You look great tonight. We're here. We're having fun. I don't have a shot glass on me, so I'm going to use this coffee mug.
Now, here's a question. Do you think that you will under pour or over pour yourself?
Hoping that's an under pour, but...
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Oh.
All right. Jeff,
Cheers.
thank you very much.
Jeff.
Hall of Games 2023.
I overpoured.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
This like has nothing to it. It's like odd. It's like very strange.
I got to restock for the holidays anyway. So this one's almost made it through all of Gamebury.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Again, we want to thank all of our Patreons just for the whole year of being in Discord and just having fun playing games and talking about games, something new, something dumb and exciting every single day in there. And we can't thank you guys enough for your continued support. Everyone in the chat right now. Of course, Tecker for not having to shell out his wallet this year for Gamebury. We made it a little easier on him as well.
Man, I mean, and what a cool thing to have Tecker induct the first ever game into the Hall of Games. It's awesome. I mean, I can't think of anyone more deserving of that. The reigning and defending king of Gamebury.
George, we got some more here. We got a $25 Sing Everything for 1 minute from Steve Hoker.
Okay.
And we got a $10 from Jamie Patterson because we told him Feliz Navidad, we would sing it or something at the end of the episode. He'll have to tell us exactly what it was again.
Why don't you chat GPT some Merry Clashmas and Feast Navidad lyrics?
We'll let him decide. But George, we're going to sing everything for the next minute. I want to discuss our favorite moments from the podcast of the past year.
Oh, that's a very good idea. I always am very, very fond of when we have friends on the show. So when we do episodes with Swoggle or we have interviews, that's always a good time. I especially want to highlight the interview with the coolest backdrop we've ever seen. And that was our interview with WrestleQuest developers, which was awesome. And it's still, I think, one of the coolest backdrops I've ever seen.
I love the way you talk, sing like Taylor Swift. I, too, liked that whole thing, like when we had Captain Shoes and we were preparing for my child. And
oh, yeah.
We banked a whole bunch of episodes.
Yeah, that's really crazy to think that over the course of the... It's really crazy to think over the course of the last year that we had multiple guests. We pre-recorded a whole lot of podcasts, and you became a dad. Like,
yeah,
like you're wearing the shirt, but like Daddy Clash was born this year. Like that's
crazy. I believe it was when I told you it was after an episode. I held up the sonogram.
Oh, I believe you told me on the way to FWF when we did commentary. Because it was me, you, and Liam Davis in the car driving up.
When was that?
Hold on.
I don't think so.
Let me consult the card.
Maybe. Consult the card. But
it doesn't have it. What? The FWF card doesn't have the date on it.
What FWF was it? 5?
FWF 4.
4.
Also, crinkling plastic. Great podcast audio.
That was October 9th. So maybe you knew before my family. Anyway, I think that whole stretch where we just recorded a whole bunch of episodes, like we were banging them out left and right. We had the interviews with Captain Shoes. We had Swoggle. We had Big Game Leroy.
Yeah.
We scrambled. We played Double Turn. We played, maybe Guacamelee was before that.
There were weeks that we were doing like 3 episodes in a week.
It was crazy. And then she got here and I was like, oh, I do have like an hour a week to record an episode.
But you know what? I think the main thing was also giving you the peace of mind that you could just, spend time with your family and like enjoy being a dad. And like, did I expect that you would find time? Yeah, sure. But I also didn't want you to have that in the back of your head. Like, well, I also have to record this podcast with George.
Yeah. Well, it's all fun. I was trying to think, even like this whole year is kind of like a blur. Like it went so fast. Like I feel like it was just summer. Like think of us recording in like those hot days in our offices without air conditioners.
I was saying the AC-less rooms was awful.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. But it was a good year and I'm very much looking forward to the next. But should we get on with another induction here, George?
Let's do it because yeah, man, I'm very excited about this next one, and you're gonna take us through this.
All right. Well, our next induction into the Game Marks Podcast Hall of Games is a true pioneer of the gaming industry, a man whose contributions have been nothing short of legendary. He is a true creative force in the video game industry, working on not only wrestling games, but utilizing his talents in motion capture, voice acting, writing, and more.
And as a writer, his storytelling has set new standards, captivating millions and inspiring a generation of game publishers and developers. From shaping of video games to providing insightful commentary that enriches the fan experience to creating the very gaming memories that we talk about regularly on this podcast. And that is why John and I are very proud to induct our friend Justin Leeper into the Hall of Games class of 2023.
Hey everyone, Justin Leeper here. It's been almost 4 years since my appearance on Game Marks, and a lot has happened. 2K skipped a year, Matt Cardona blocked me on Twitter, I reunited with Ukes to work on AEW Fight Forever. I moved to England, where I'm currently lead narrative designer on Transformers Reactivate. I mean, it could be argued that without appearing on Game Marks, I never would have returned to the video game industry. That wouldn't be the least bit true, but I've heard dumber arguments on the internet. Still, it was well worth my coming onto the pod. Johnny and George were and remain lovely chaps. And here's a little secret. Creators love to talk about their creations. But I didn't expect to get this kind of recognition. I've been to a few Hall of Fame inductions, but never thought I'd be inducted into one. I remember back when I went to see the original Sheik's enshrinement posthumously into the WWE Hall of Fame. His widow was up there giving her heartfelt thanks to the industry that put a roof over her head. And then some jackass 3 rows in front of me started shouting like he was at a house show. Now I took it upon myself to go down and tell him to show some gosh darn respect. He was quiet for a little bit, but then he started up again, and all eyes turned to me. But security stepped in and soon handled the situation. I'm sure he got the help he needed. But seriously, I appreciate this honor. I'm a gamer and a wrestling fan just like the rest of you. Those are two communities that can pump out a lot of toxic waste. And make no mistake, social media and engagement farmers profit when we're jerks to one another. So don't get suckered into it. Enjoy what you consume and pump up the things that deserve it. Things like the Game Marks podcast. Thank you.
Man, oh man.
Huge
thank you to Justin Leeper for One, coming onto the podcast and sitting down with Clash and I very early on in the life of the podcast.
In different time zones, like opposite end of the world at that point.
Making time for us. And since then, just being a genuinely awesome dude to us the entire time over the course of the 4 years that we've known him since.
I can't even tell you how many times we're playing a game, a SmackDown vs. Raw, or even when Fight Forever was coming out, that I would just like side message him and say, hey, like, what was it like doing this or this? He would send a picture or send like a paragraph when he could just either blow us off or he could just say, like, why am I helping these guys? But no, he always has been such a cool person, a friend. And when we said we were having the Hall of Games, I said, we need to put a guest in, and who better than Justin Leeper to be our first ever guest. One day I want him back on this podcast. Maybe we won't be as rattled or shook as we were the first time because he was one of our first guests ever.
Yeah, that was man, to go back and listen to that episode now is just like you can tell that we are very like quick with our so we were wondering what was it like when you did this, and then we just like sit back and we were just like very quiet.
Hey, he carried that whole thing. But even now that I got some Death Stranding under my belt, I would love to ask some questions about that as well, now that I have a better perspective of that.
Got to get Leaper Part 2 for sure.
But okay, let's get into something else here, since this is kind of like our yearly retrospect episode as well.
Okay.
Game of the year for you. Not the game of the year in general, which was what? Baldur's Gate 3?
Baldur's Gate, yeah.
Also piqued my interest. What do you
it's
consider
on sale right now on Steam, and I'm heavily considering buying it.
What is your game of the year?
Oh man, I mean, the game that I have put the most time into is there's two. It's either Counter-Strike 2 or it's Fortnite. It's a game that we talk about all the time, and I feel like the tail end of Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Tail end of Chapter 4, it pulled me back in, and I got really into it again, and started playing with you, which is playing it. I always forget how different it is to play something that's not a wrestling game with you, because for a majority of our friendship, all that we've ever played is wrestling games. So when the opportunity comes up to play something that's not a wrestling game, I'm like, oh yeah, this is different. This is a different kind of experience, and it's cool. But just the end of Chapter 5, to go into this new season now, Fortnite OG, everything that they've done with this new iteration, it's definitely the game that I have pumped the most time into for sure. But there's a lot of games that I've picked up or plan on putting time into that I haven't quite got around to yet. I got my first Xbox this year, so now I have that whole catalog to go through. So I'm sure that
we haven't gotten an update. Do you play it? Like, what do you play on it?
My Xbox.
What do you do?
So
I just look at it.
No. So a lot of the times that I'm playing it, I play a lot of NHL. I played through UFC. I'm playing through Madden 23. I played one game of the show. I played one baseball game. Well, I played one baseball game, one full 9-inning game. It was 28-0, and I went, I don't think that I need to play any more of the show. I did one home run derby, and I went, yep, that's it. This is why, like, on paper, I love the idea of a baseball game, but I don't know. Maybe I did something wrong. But yeah, it's Fortnite. Fortnite's my game of the year just for how just diverse it's become and how it's pulled me back in and reconnected with old friends. And now we have a new game that we play together that's not a wrestling game, which is fun.
So as much as I want to say Fortnite, and it same as you, season 4, chapter 4 pulled me back in hard. I was trying to remember like what brought me back in. I think I was watching Tim the Tatman play something else, like Warzone or something. And for some reason that day he played with Cypher and Courage Fortnite. And like that brought him back in. And I was like, oh, this new map actually looks really cool. And that was like Mega City where I started dropping. Like I loved Mega City so much. So then I don't know, like I just dove in. I started watching Ninja again and Courage, and I don't want to say it's game of the year though, because I feel like everything happened at the end of the year. Like you could argue that Lego Fortnite is going to be game of the year, but next year.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
I think there's really one game this year that I played more than anything else and have loved more than anything else. And I believe it was almost exactly a year ago I started playing. I could be wrong. Marvel Snap. I've never seen a mobile game so well developed, constantly updated, constantly like once you're playing it, you're like, how are they ever going to get new cards?
Yeah.
Like they've pretty much done everything, and then they outdo themselves. They bring in some more stuff. Right now, I don't really like the cards that are there. I feel like they're a little overpowered, and they're kind of ruining the game. But we all know after the season's over, they're going to nerf them, and it's going to be fine.
That's that first season that they released Zabu or whatever it is, and it was like in everyone's deck, and it was or the first year that they released Galactus. Like it's
but the blob right now is ridiculous. I don't know. I just think they're on top of it. It's really fun to play still. You could dive in for a little bit and play a game here and there, or you could like play for a long time. Me and you used to sit in the pizzeria at lunch and play against each other and be late to go back to work.
Yep.
I just think for a game that has no ads, that you technically don't need to pay to play to
it's
be
not
good
pay to
at,
win by any means. No.
I think I've bought one season in the year or two that I've played it.
And they follow the same. Oh no, it's just a cash transaction. They don't do the Fortnite where it's like there's in-game currency. Like you can't buy the season pass with gold. You have to
right. But if you do it through Steam, you could use PayPal and just use your PayPal money and not worry about anything. But that has to be my game of the year. I really want to get into more like in-depth stuff, and I think I will this year, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I'm very, very excited to see what you do to expand your gaming horizons. I know that we talked about a game that you're kind of interested in that is a console PC release of like a more fleshed out version of Marvel
Midnight
Snap,
Suns.
Midnight Suns, and we'll see. Excited for you to try that or like kind of like dip your toe into it and see what you think about it, because I don't know. Man, you know what I wanted to. Or I expected to put as my game of the year?
What's that?
Spider-Man.
Yeah, but we didn't play it.
I didn't play it. But
neither of us played it.
It looks
kind of hard.
So good. It looks so fun.
One day.
And I would make it my game of the year just based on that. The reviews, the visuals, it all looks fantastic. Man. All right. So listen, let us know on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. What's your game of the year? And for everyone in the chat right now, let us know what your game of the year is, and maybe we'll talk about them during the soft lock.
Yeah, but all right, guys. Before we get into the games that George and I are inducting, I think it would be important for us to acknowledge something very important that we all lost in 2023. So go ahead. All right, so are you ready for my pick this year?
Yeah, let's do it. So, we discussed earlier the order. In order for a game to be inducted, John and I both had to give it the old play it forever stamp of approval, and I'm very excited for John's induction. So, without further ado, Mr. Clash, what's your pick?
All right. It is with great pride and honor that I announced the next induction into the Hall of Games, and this is my pick. This game is TNA Impact. This game has not only brought excitement to countless players, but has also made a significant impact on the gaming landscape. With its engaging gameplay, including the Ultimate X, and dynamic storytelling, including the masked superstar, Suicide, who was introduced to the world, and a roster of iconic wrestlers who were brought to your controllers for the first time with this game, TNA Impact has stood the test of time as a testament to the creativity and innovation in the world of interactive entertainment as only Midway can.
Well. Congratulations to TNA Impact on joining the ranks of the GMP Hall of Games. May its virtual squared circle forever be celebrated amongst the classics.
The virtual six-sided squared circle.
The virtual Ultimate X of the Hall of Games.
So, we all know I love this game.
Oh, yeah.
Since day one on this show, we said we were going to wait to have either Dixie Carter or someone from the game be on the show.
Yeah.
Now, we never made that happen.
Not yet, but we could.
We got as close as asking someone for the contact info and then saying, I think I can get that for you. And that was about it. That's as far as it got. It was close. We've gotten retweets over the years. It just never happened.
You got called sweet by Dixie Carter
for buying that autograph figure. Yeah. So we finally said we're going to play this game. We have to play it. It's about time. And we got Alex Shelley to record the intro to the podcast. So I'll take that as a win. And yeah, we went on and we played a lot of TNA games actually this year, but TNA Impact hold a special place here, special place on this podcast for all of like the lore of the past 4 years that we just kept alluding to it. And yeah, we got to put it in here.
We kept that joke alive going for a really, really long time. And you know what? I still think that we should get Dixie Carter on the podcast or someone else that someone on the roster. We've got
Jeff Jarrett,
Sanjay Dutt.
Anyone. Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Well, speaking of goals and wanting people on the podcast, what are some podcast goals you got for us next year? What's on your wish list for 2024 for old Game Marks?
So when I was putting together the list the other day, I was kind of like crossing stuff out, seeing what we played, what we haven't played. There's so much left to play.
Yeah.
I want to just keep going. I want to keep trucking. I want to keep playing stuff. I want to make our YouTube channel just an archive of every single wrestling game that has ever been made. I want to do more history ofs and deep dives. Like I want someone to be like, what games was Ric Flair in? And rather than find those videos that just cut scenes of like finishers, they find us and they get the full in-depth recount of everything.
I like that a lot. I think that's a great idea. And I think that's a great goal. And not only do I think that's obtainable, but it also sounds really fun. Like it's not like we got to send a lot of awkward emails and kind of like beg people to come on the podcast. Like it's just like we got to call in some favors to try to get some interviews. Like it's just like it's what we've already been doing and just doing more of it and doing. You know, the whole reason that we started this podcast, it's things that we love, things that we like to do. And yeah, I'd like to think that people can tell how much we like wrestling and video games put through this podcast.
Yeah. And I think they could probably tell from looking at our YouTube that we've been trying to boost it up and make it a little cooler and just have more content lately. And hopefully within the next year, it's even bigger and better.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you though, in terms of my goals. Like, yeah, it would be cool to get more interviews of, you know, especially, you know, people who have done motion capture for games, because I feel like we've only like kind of scratched the surface on that, which I know is something that we always talk about and, you know, we hear a lot about, but to actually get, you know, recent insider information of someone who's done motion capture for wrestling games, I think it would be a little bit, I don't know, more of a peek behind the curtain or get more interviews with developers. Like it doesn't have to be like my interview list for next year isn't, you know, people who are on television necessarily. It's like the people who are behind the scenes. I would love to talk to more publishers and developers and kind of get, you know, if we can get anyone from like the art team or like the creative team on behind some of these games. Like I think that, you know, not only would that be super eye-opening for us as people who do that for a living, but also just like, hey, why did you make the graphical choices that you made like in this game? Like what was your inspiration behind that? Was it something that came from a up top? Did you get to kind of put your own spin on it? Like stuff like that. I like that. I think that's cool. And I think that also works towards like stuff like that also works towards your goal as well.
Yeah. I would like to get like the UPW developer and everything.
Yes.
We've been going after that one for a while, but I get it. They're not doing it yet. And hopefully they will soon.
I love that.
How many times do we have to reach out to the virtual basement for a word, a comment, anything? Maybe that'll happen this year. Remains to be seen. We try. Maybe fill us in on some things, have us in the know rather than just wondering when the game's going to come out.
Yeah. I also, I don't know, haven't done it in a while. I think it'd be cool to do commentary with you again.
We'll see if we can make that happen. What are you doing in February?
We'll see.
All right, cool. Jordan DeLuciano's not going to be there at Creator Pro. Just letting you know.
Oh, look at that. Maybe I'll swing by. We'll do a little commentary reunion. Oh man. All right. Well, what's next, John? What's next on the docket?
I think we're going to take a quick little ad break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about your pick, the main event.
Okay.
All right, Georgie, your pick is up next. The Hall of Games is going to continue on. I'm calling this the main event. I put it last for a reason. This is a beloved game by many, and I agree that this game should be inducted. So, George, who's going into the Hall of Games?
All right. Well, the next and final induction for the night celebrates what a lot of people consider to be the golden era of wrestling video games. It is with great excitement and mostly a broken N64 controller that we both induct WCW NWO Revenge into the Hall of Games. Now, WCW NWO Revenge is not merely a video game, it is a timeless journey into the heart of one of the most iconic periods in wrestling history, with groundbreaking gameplay, an extensive roster, and meticulous attention to detail in those N64 polygons. WCW NWO Revenge has set itself apart with a truly unique and rewarding gameplay experience, a game that still resonates with fans across generations. From epic battle royals to winning championship gold, Revenge has captured the essence of an era, becoming a cherished relic for wrestling and gaming enthusiasts alike.
So congratulations, WCW NWO Revenge, on taking your rightful place among the Game Marks Podcast Hall of Games. May your digital squared circle continue to inspire and entertain for years to come.
I mean, a lot of people are going to be like, how come we didn't put in No Mercy? And it's because we haven't played it yet officially. We played it for GMP 64, but there hasn't been an official episode dedicated to No Mercy. And we said for a long time when we were first starting, I don't know if that rule still holds, that the last episode we ever did would be No Mercy, but I don't think that's going to be how that works. But for a long time, that was the joke.
I also said we should start the episode, but then just cut to black like The Sopranos, and it never happens.
Yes. I know someone, a friend of ours, that will just love that reference. Man.
Wait, so speaking of Revenge, we have to talk about what.
That's what I was just going to talk about. Insane.
We have to talk about what happened this week. I'm finding the exact thing now. Hang on. Here we go. Melon Bread 1979 on Twitter. You may know them from a lot of video game related tweets and videos. They said, AKI, did you know, I've just discovered this in the last 10 minutes, but looks like some characters in WCW NWO Revenge have running grapples front and rear in their movesets. Although it also looks like everyone has them disabled by default via the parameters. And the video is Bret Hart doing running grapples, and he hits one, and it's a running neck breaker. Like, the animation's there, and it's the same running neck breaker from like No Mercy and all that. Now, I also saw just before some people were arguing, calling it fake, which, you know, all the other accounts, including us, came to their defense immediately. And they went as far as saying, prove that this is not a hack. And they actually held up, I think AKI did this. What's their account? aka Club 64. They held up the N64 controller and actually hit run and the grapple to prove that it was never in the game before. So this is a real thing. This
Wild. I think
some may say, why wasn't it there? Maybe part of it was broken, which kind of ruined the rest of the gameplay, so they removed it. Maybe it just wasn't there yet.
Certain finishers don't really lend themselves to, like, you're gonna run as Hulk Hogan to do the old man flop. Like, you're gonna run grapple to do the old man flop. Like,
oh, not even finishers. It's just running grapples in general.
No, but a lot. So DDP.
Okay, yeah, that one.
Retweeted and said, for years he had always talked about the fourth diamond cutter that was in the game. And there was no, like, he knew that it existed, but obviously didn't have any way of showing or proving that it actually existed. But he remembered that it was a thing that he was talked about to him, or that was talked about to him. So when this started going around on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it now, he was just like, there it is. The mystery, the illustrious, the long sought after fourth diamond cutter. And
for 25 years.
Crazy. But to think like it would be, there's running grapples and then there's running specials. Maybe some people just wouldn't have running specials, or maybe that's the hiccup. Some people have running specials, some people don't. They didn't know how to just, like, for people that necessarily don't have a special that works for a running special move. And then, we see that. Here's my question. It's in Revenge. It's turned off. Why does it skip WrestleMania 2000? That's what I want to know, because
I didn't even think of that.
It skips WrestleMania 2000.
That's something to respond to them right at this moment.
And then it's in No Mercy. And it is notoriously in VPW 2, which we played during Game Wars. Again, another episode, another game we have to play on the list, a part of this this illustrious series. But yeah, not present in VPW 2, turned off in Revenge, not in WrestleMania 2000, but present in No Mercy. Very, very, very interesting there how that happens. But yeah, I think I have, prior to, as a child, as a kid playing with my cousins and my friends, I think I had more hours in this game than any other game I owned at the time. And I like until No Mercy came out, I had more time spent in this game than I did in WrestleMania 2000 as well.
I wish I played this like when it came out, but I was on PlayStation then, and I was a bit younger than you, so I wasn't really. I didn't. Well, first of all, it didn't have an N64, so that kind of just shuts that down immediately. I remember it coming out. I had Thunder, but man, to play this, that would have been nuts.
Yeah, this game. Like, I remember when you first got a Game Shark and you put the code and you could play as Wrath. Like,
I told you my experience buying this game later. I bought it used.
Yes.
And every single wrestler in there was turned pink with like a derogatory name. And I was like, oh no. Can I like factory reset this? And luckily, if you go to the options, you could just wipe the game clean. And that's what I did. And I was able to play it for many years after that. But I got a little worried there. I'm like, I can't go in there and reset every single wrestler. This is crazy. Also, the person I bought it from,
what the hell,
like, be in jail.
What the hell? That's bad. To do that to a kid's game. I mean, I guess it's probably immature kids doing immature kids thing, but like, holy crap.
Oh, it was crazy.
That's bad. That's really, really bad.
Yeah. But I mean, George, that kind of concludes this portion, the Hall of Games portion of the episode, the first ever.
Yeah.
I think what we do now is we take a little break, we enter the soft lock, and we do our last giveaway.
All right.
The winner is... Oh! Hoker took it literally on the last, like, little bink, like
Oh.
it went spork, bink. Like it could not get closer if I tried.
Man, oh man. Well,
Poker.
congratulations, Poker.
has racked it in this game, Bree. Thank you so much for your donations. Thank you everyone for your donations. We're going to be doing those raffles starting next week. And yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
you ready to get into this week's soft lock?
I think I am.
All right. The soft lock, sponsored by W. Use code GameMarksPod for 10% off of your order at w.gg. Now, the soft lock is a segment where one of our mega marks from our Patreon gives us a topic to discuss, a question to debate. It's a question of the week with a fancy name. This week, the question comes from Will McDonough, and the Bagel Boy wants to know
Surprised he's not here.
what is an objectively awful game that you loved, and what is the worst game you ever sunk serious time into? And I have an immediate answer.
Go for it.
The second Force Unleashed game
Ooh.
is
Okay.
so bad and so short, but I love it. I have played that so many times, and it's just so short and it's so disappointing, but I just keep going back to it because I love those two games so much. But yeah, it is just, and they ported it to the PC, and it is riddled with bugs. The game will just randomly close, certain levels won't load, and you'll have to like attempt to reload your save file like 6 times, and like maybe it'll work, but maybe sometimes you got to do it 10 times, man. Yeah, it's that's for sure my game, but I still go back and I play it and I love it, and it's just disappointingly awesome.
I think we've gotten this question before, and my answer is always like Raw 2 or WrestleMania 21. Like Raw 2 was so bad. Like Raw 1 was bad, but you're like gave it the benefit of a doubt for being the first Xbox wrestling game. Raw 2 was just horrible, clunky. The story was so repetitive, but I put like years into that. WrestleMania 21 was at least also just like new and fresh, so you justified like running through the story and playing it a lot. Plus it was like the new wrestling game for your console. What else are you going to play? But I've mentioned before, Prototype was awful.
I feel like the first one was good and the second one was bad.
The first one to me, I went to a friend's house and he was playing it. I'm like, this is so cool. And then I went and bought it like the next day. And I was like, wait, this is bad.
Do you remember Infamous?
Yeah, we've talked about that here too. Same.
That was
same. Very similar games.
Yeah, first one was good. Second one, I just think it was just more of the same. I feel like that's also that like generation.
Yeah.
Of like games where it's just like, oh, this is really good. We're gonna make a second one. It's just gonna be the same exact game, but now we're gonna make everyone look a little older and kind of expand on the powers a bit more.
I feel like I just have a good eye. Like if I'm not liking a game now, that I could just put it away, like NHL 24. Like.
And I hate Rocket Racing, and I played it until I was that gold rank.
You've been playing it?
No, so there was that free whatever that you can unlock. So I played it until I unlocked it, and then I was just like, I don't like this as much as I wanted to, but I'm committed to unlocking this one thing, so I got to do it.
Do you remember on PlayStation 1, there was a game called Jersey Devil?
Oh, yeah.
I played a lot of that, and it was not good. It was like a Ratchet and Clank, like one of those like just copy paste games that I don't know. I don't know why I played it so much.
Yeah, I look at it this way. I mean, you know how we talked, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, about Christmas movies and how it's just like Christmas movies don't necessarily have to be themed around Christmas. It's the movies that you watch around Christmas. Like, I feel like that's also like, I mean, it's the whole point of the podcast. Like, a game is a game, and it's a good game if you like. There are so many games that we probably played, loved as a kid, sunk a ton of time into, and then we're just like, oh, you forget about it. Like there was a game on N64. I want to say it's like BioCore or something like that. And the whole thing is there is a bomb being transported from point A to point B, and in the middle are a ton of obstacles, and you have to clear out the obstacles as like an excavator or, you know, a race car, and you have to like push things out of the way, and you have to do all that as the bomb is moving down the path.
I mean, that doesn't sound too bad.
No,
but I
haven't played that game in years. But
sounds like a budget game.
I was like, me and my friends were obsessed with that game when it first came out. We were like, this is so cool. Everything, like, you can move so many things around it. Everything feels fun. Just haven't thought about it since.
Yeah, I mean, Thunder.
I
put a lot of time into Thunder. But yeah, we'd also just love to know what everyone else is thinking. What games do you find all right, this question comes from Will because he plays awful games, and
I want to make it known that's Clash saying that, not me.
He says it too. Okay, he plays some pretty bad games that he loves, but you know what? He plays them. I don't play them. He plays them. Yeah. Have fun. Do whatever you want.
Opinion.
Let us know what your objectively awful games that you just love are, and we'll talk about them. But George, next week is going to be, so this is coming out Christmas. It's going to be New Year's Day. So we're going to do something a little easy for you guys, something simple that you can catch up throughout the week. We're just going to do a Q&A. We're going to ask for some questions on social media. We're going to ask our Patreon. We're just going to do a little more reflecting and just talk about some games and have a good time. So that's all next week is going to be. A nice little short one. And that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, listen, guys, if you want to get more content from good old Johnny Boy and I, you can go to youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. You got weekly playthrough videos and a whole lot more over there. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for all of our shirts. Again, teasing it until he does it. John says he's got an idea for a shirt, and I'm very excited what it is because he won't tell me about it until he does it. And when John has a shirt idea, they're usually really great. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for this show, early and ad-free access to show notes and live video recordings once Gameboree ends. That's the only way to be a part of it. At GameMarksPod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell.
Ring.
Really does help out the podcast. And another thing that helps out the podcast is if you were to go and leave a 5-star review on both Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen. It really does help the podcast algorithm. We'd appreciate it. And if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, you can reach out to us over at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. First class of the GMP Hall of Games is in the book. Very excited about this. We will see you next week for the first Q&A of the year. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, everybody. And Johnny Clash, you do that thing.
Game over, Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.